Did you always have indoor plumbing when you were little?
Yes, we always did.
You always did, okay.
That would have been significant.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Not everybody did, right?
No, right.
They were lace curtain Irish, right? They had indoor plumbing. Right?
I can't help you too much, Pat, there, because I can't think of anything.
Well, you mentioned the radio.
Huh?
You mentioned the radio.
Oh, the radio. It was Dick and my father. There was a little just.
How about the ice box and getting the refrigerator? Remember the old ice box we had
When was that?
on Parker Street? The iceman would come with the ice over
Yeah, I
his
know he
shoulder,
did.
put it in every day or so. Then at one point, we got a new refrigerator, a refrigerator.
A refrigerator.
And what about the first car? Do you remember the first car that you saw?
We didn't have a car.
You didn't.
No, Dick had the first car, and it was a Model T Ford. I don't think we bragged about it much.
It had a rumble seat.
Yeah, rumble sitting upright.
Did you ever drive it?
Huh?
Did he ever let you drive it?
No, oh no, Dick took me out a couple of times. He and I didn't agree on driving.
I know that feeling.
He would park me on a hill and then say start up, and of course then you had to use the clutch to start on the hill, you know. Then they had these automatics.
And go ahead.
Tell the kids about when our grandfather, Richard I, decided to drive Dad's car.
Yeah, right.
What happened then? Where was it? Was it parked in the driveway?
No, it was parked out in front,
Okay.
right in front of the house. You remember when we went through Forsyth's yard and into their garden?
Yeah.
Oh.
I thought that now he should have been smart enough to know to turn off the key and it'll stop.
He had no license. He just got in the car and took off and went right through somebody's garden across the street. And boy, was Dad mad, right?
That's right.
Oh. He cherished that car, huh?
Oh.
Did Grandma ever have a license and drive? Never did. Never did.
But we had bus service. See, we had bus service, and he was a policeman, so he rode for nothing.
Yeah.
So he would always walk to the bus
Yeah.
and go downtown or back home,
Yeah.
especially on Hamilton Avenue.
Yes, because he ran the corners, so we
Yeah.
didn't have far to walk.
So he never had a desire to have a car, because they never went anyplace with a car, unless Dad took them, right?
And they didn't have to go shopping because they just went to the corner store, right?
Right.
Oh boy.
I think probably the most dramatic time of my life was my father died, because we went to see him that night and didn't know that he was going to die. And Dick had been there, and Francie, and they had gone to, they had gone over to get Halloween's or something over there, had left the hospital, you know. And in the meantime, he took a turn for the worse, and we're trying to get Dick and Francie back, you know, so they'd be there when he died. It was a dramatic time because we did him rear around at that time too. So, but
And did they get back in time?
I think the most dramatic time was when my mother died, though, because we weren't there, and you know. My mother had gone into the hospital to have a transfusion. She had them once a month. And she had bone marrow anemia. And she went in. And then when the phone rang, and it was a hospital, and they wanted to know if they could anoint her. And I said, well, she was only anointed last month when she was in. Is this a usual procedure? And they said, well, if it's all right with you. And I said, well, yes, I don't have no objection to her being anointed. So anyways, a few minutes later or so, it bothered me because I thought, what do they want on this? I called Josephine, and I said, did the doctor get called out to the hospital for my mother last night? I said, she'd gone in for a transfusion. And I said, they called me this morning and said they wanted to anoint her, and I wondered if she's taking a change for the worse or anything. And she said, no, I don't think so, but I'll check it out, so, you know, let you know. So she called in and checking out while I was waiting for her call to come back. She called the hospital. The doctor called me from the hospital. He said, Peg, I got some bad news for you. And I said, what? And I said, is my mother worse? And he said, your mother is dead.
Oh.
And so that's the most traumatic thing, I think, right at the moment that happened, because nobody was with her. And but that wasn't the worst part of the whole thing. I mean, that was, I know, happens to a lot of people. But the following, she died in, my mother died in October, and or in November. And the next, this is only next summer. Now we're in May. We're in July, and I was at the St. Anne's Triduum. You know, they have every July, and this Mrs. Murphy that was there. She had 3 sons who were priests. They lived on Court Street. One was ordained in Rome, and one was ordained Richard Murphy, and all of them. So she said, can I speak to you when you come out? And I said yes. And she said, I didn't know what she wanted because I didn't know her personally. And so when we come out, she said, could I, she said, are you Mrs. Corcoran's daughter? And I said, yes, I am. And she said, well, I wondered, I was in the hospital the night your mother died. And she said she called all evening for you. And I said to the nurse, who was that woman that's, you know, calling for somebody? And she says, Mrs. Corcoran. She said, well, why don't you call her daughter then if that's what she wants? And she said, oh, she's had a shot and she's just delirious.
Wow.
That was awful. Terrible.
The rat. See what had happened, she got in and they hadn't given her the transfusion, you know, which they should have given her that day she was in, you know. And of course, by the time they gave it to her, it was too late. But then later on, I got a letter from a lady in Cato, and she was in the same room with my mother, and she had her teeth out, and she said, she told me about, you know, my mother wanting somebody to come in. But it just, boy, I was furious when I heard that.
But she told you the same thing?
Yes,
That
right,
all
yeah.
night she'd been calling for
She
you?
said she was, and the nurse, Mrs. Murphy said, I said to her, well, for goodness sake, why don't you call her daughter then if she wants to? And she said, well, she's just delirious. She said she's had a shot. And that's, you know, what. So, I think those are the most traumatic times in my life. I'm telling you, both of them. But
It always made our mother too so upset
right.
that happened. Because you went, Mother and you went over the next day, right?
Well, no, I called Catherine Smith. I told you how Robbie was home. He was sick, and the other kids were in school, and then the 2 little ones were there. And so I called Catherine Smith, and I said, can you come over right away? And she said, what's going on? Your mother was working, I think, we had at the time. And she said, I'll be right over. So she came over. By the time I called Francie, or Malco, and Dick from the prison, you know, and they all arrived on the scene. And but it just made me, when this woman told me this 7 months later, or a year later almost, you know, and those sons of bees, you know.
That's unheard of.
Because see, what I used to do, Rick, was call them a day or 2 early to be sure they had the blood, see, because she had a certain type of blood. I used to give her once a month. And I'd call them and I'd say, and they called and said they had the blood, so I thought they were going to give it to her right away, you know. They didn't do it, you know. But she didn't make it. I guess there's a lot of mistakes that nobody knows about.
Mother was always mad at that lady too. Why did she tell you that? Get you all upset? But
I know, she said, it's bothered me for a long time, and my husband says, mind your own business and don't say anything about it, you know. And she said, but it's bothered me enough that I just had to tell somebody, you know. Well, there's a lesson to be learned. Make sure everybody knows what you want.
But It's really important. Wow.
Because she walked out of the house the night before, you know, we had dinner, Mrs. Sullivan had come over and had dinner with her up in her bedroom, you know, and she left, and she was good, you know, and except she just had to go in for this transfusion.
I always thought about that a lot because Mother told that story a lot of times.
Did she, Betty?
Yeah, how she was so upset. And that's why when Bob's mother was dying in the hospital, and we went over to see her, and the nurse sort of told us that she was going to die soon. And it was like 7:45, and so we were in there talking to her, and you know, it's obvious that she wasn't in good shape. And so she eventually died, and we were all there, the four of us. She was dying. At 8 o'clock, she was dying. And at 8 o'clock, the bell rings saying that all the visitors have to leave. And so Bob says, we have to go because it's 8 o'clock. And I said, but you can't go because she's dying and you don't want her to die alone. And he says, but the bell is ringing.
Let that damn thing ring.
So I said, no, you have to stay because of the aha story, you know.
Yeah.
So he still laughs. And, you know, we said some prayers and we held her hands, and Karen and Danny were there, so that was nice. And she died. But I always tell Bob that she probably wasn't ready to die, but she knew she had to die quick because the bell was ringing. So you precipitated her death, you know. Because he was her favorite and she didn't want to die alone. So she wasn't ready, but... Because Bob had never been there when anybody died, so he was like shocked. But, you know,
Yeah, let's get out of here.
Yeah, that's what his attitude was. Yeah. And then when we went out, they were so kind, you know, and they came out and talked to us in the hall. And it was really funny because the nurse said, well, we're so sorry, you have our condolences. Would you like to donate your mother's eyes to the eye bank? If so, would you sign this paper? So Bob, he doesn't even know what's going on, you know. And so he signs the paper, and we don't think anything of it. But see, Bob never has any responsibility. The older sister does everything for the mother, everything. So then I went and called the daughter and said, you know, that the mother just died. And so when she came to the hospital and she found that Bob had signed the paper, she says to him, Bob, how could you have done that? Her dying wish was that nobody would touch her eyes. So I started to laugh. It was like,
oh, no.
And Bob is like, I'm sorry. The only adult decision he had to make during this whole process was to sign the paper. Poor lady.
He screwed up.
So we always, he was in shock. He didn't know what he was doing.
He just wanted to get out of there with that bell.
Yeah, you know, he's used to the older sister making all the decisions, so he just did it. But it was a beautiful experience, and Karen and Danny, it was the first time they'd been there with someone that was dying, and it was very peaceful. But it was because of AHA that I made everybody, it was a compulsory death watch. You're going to stay here until she dies.
And have to leave under any conditions.
Yeah. So that is. Gee, it's too bad though. You had to suffer like that. Oh.
Yeah, that's terrible.
I'm sure there's a lot of them that happen that way, Patty. I really do, but what do you know? You know, you're not there, so you don't know.
That's why I firmly believe you have to have an advocate with you when you go to the hospital constantly. You
Right.
should never be left alone. Like I was telling Peg this morning, Pat, how you and I prayed over her, you know, a year or two ago when she was in Auburn Hospital, and Robbie kept saying, get up, Mom, you got to go to Mass. Remember that? And you and I are saying, oh, please, God, you know.
He was right.
And he was
Get up.
right. And then
Yep.
you rose from the dead.
He rose from the dead.
You were a miracle.
I
You knew that we didn't have all the stories taped, so you said
Yeah,
that's right.
Paul used to say, I told them you weren't going to go. He said they wouldn't pay attention to me.
And he did.
He did.
He kept
He
saying,
said, "You got to get home."
yeah,
he'd say.
she'll be all right. She'll be all right.
Oh, isn't that funny? So somebody knows better than we do, right?
Boy, I'll say.
That was so funny. And you know,
And I laugh because I used to say in the 65 years we were married, Paul was always dependent upon me, so he wasn't going to let me go.
Yeah.
Whereas this is it.
he knew a good
That's
thing
right.
when he had it.
That is right. Mhm. Now, when you think about things that happened in the history, like World War II, obviously, but things like that, what do you remember as being something that was really shocking to you?
The death of President Kennedy.
Oh,
That was a shocker. I remember we're sitting at the desk that day, and Dr. Warner or Dr. Campbell come in, my boss, he was, he said, gee, I just heard some news out there. He said, the president's been shot. And of course, everybody went into a turmoil then, you know, in the whole place.
yeah.
And nobody would believe it, you know what I mean? They didn't believe he was going to die. They believed he was shot, you know, but he wasn't going to die.
Uh-huh.
And boy, it was a shocker.
Because
Mrs. Murphy was being married the next day, so it wasn't much of a wedding.
who was being married?
Liz. Marion's Liz, yeah.
Oh, gee.
So she, but she did, and it was an awful thing.
That's interesting because that's probably one of the big tragedies in our life too, was President Kennedy's death.
It seems so. All the days we sat in front of the television for days afterwards, you
Yeah.
know, watching the whole procedure.
Yeah.
Peg, what
You know, though, Ricky, and of course you're young, so you don't. But I don't think the younger generation, well, maybe younger than you or even your age, they don't realize what World War II was. I mean, we talk about it sometimes, and I mean, it's like it's a vague thing, you know. They've heard about it, you know, and so on and so forth, and know there was a war. But I mean, what went on, and the tragedies and the things that are just unbelievable.
Tell the kids about when Paul was overseas and Paulie was born and you were alone.
Right. I said the other day, I said that Jake, who was someone we were talking about it, and I said, well, you know, when you come right down to it, I saw all these girls, and I do feel bad for these people that are in Iraq and all those people and like that. But I said, we went through that thing in World War II. I mean, everybody left, you know, and you were, he had to depend on somebody else, you know, and so on and so forth. And, but I don't think the younger people realize, I mean, some of the young kids, you know, what the World War II was, you know. But it wasn't any fun.
All the rationing.
Yeah, the rationing.
All that.
And
But mainly it was the battles and then
the battles. And,
folks getting killed that you knew. And
right, and we were at Camp Miles Standish, you know, because I was down there during the war. And I mean, there's a sad thing happening. I remember walking in that morning and everybody was in a turmoil. And they said that the Yanks have landed, you know, and they landed on Normandy, you know, and so. And there's so many tragic things along the way. I mean, every day you heard something, you know, worse. And you live like, and of course, living in an army camp wasn't the greatest place in the world anyway. So, but it was a. We were talking about Ray Corcoran. Somebody said something about him the other day. I said I could see Ray going down the street and going off to war and all by himself.
Yeah.
And then Francie went next, and we went next.
Wow.
Francie and I went a week apart, or Paul and Francie.
That must have been so hard when
Yeah.
Francie left and then Paul.
Right. And the funny part of it was, and that's unbelievable to me, or was at that time, was my father. He thought everybody should go. And usually, you know, he was the one that would say nobody. But I know we sit there and I'd argue with him all that. If somebody else, I guess it was Paul's brother we were talking about, or somebody, he had 3 kids. I said, if you've got children at home, you shouldn't have to go now. That's you know, and everyone should be the same for everybody. He'd say it. I'd be so mad at him because And that was funny for him to take that attitude. Of course, his son Francis went, so everybody should go there.
What about the day Francie came home?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
good.
God, that was something, wasn't it?
Tell the kids about that.
That probably was one of the dramatic times of my life, too. Francie had landed in California, and he was coming into Sampson, and at the Navy base, and of course I knew I couldn't get on the base, to pick him up. So Mrs. Hogan lived next door to us. I remember she was the dressmaker, and her brother was a retired Navy man. So anyways, I was out talking to him one day, and I said, "Is there any way?" He said, "I'll take you over. I can get on the base." And I said, "Gee, would you love? It'd be great if you would." So he said, "Yes." So the day Francie was supposed to come, I went to Sampson with him, and of course he wore his uniform so he could get on the base. So we got on the base, and way down the road, there's all these roads going into Sampson, was this little sailor standing. And it was my dear brother, and he'd gotten so thin, and he looked at because he was in the islands, and he really was. And I couldn't believe it was him, honestly. Well, of course, he was so glad to see us all, so we went home then that day. But it was a rough time because, God, was remember Jeannie?
He had shrunk.
Yes. He was a little,
So thin.
and he looked
quiet,
about this high.
Very quiet. He didn't talk.
Oh, and he wouldn't talk to anybody. I mean, if you'd ask him a question, he'd answer you, but he wouldn't carry on a conversation. Wouldn't leave the house.
Oh.
And Sunday, I can remember Mrs. McNally died. They lived next to Aunt Minnie down on Fifth Avenue. They were friends of ours, So I said to him, "Will you go to the wake with me?" Because Paul was away. See, he wasn't here, and. So finally I agreed to go. That's the first time he went out. We go down to her wake. But he didn't want to talk to anybody. And so...
He was a CB.
Pardon?
He was a CB in the Navy, and he saw a lot of action.
Yes, when they went into the Philippines, they had to pave the way for him to go in, build the bridge, the entrances. And a lot of some of his friends were killed, and that was kind of tragic, I guess. So, but as they say, they just were lucky to get home. That was all.
How about Paul? When he came home, was he more normal?
Yeah, well, Paul he was in the army. Well, he didn't see as much. He saw as much, but he wasn't as much involved as Francie was. And he ended up in Japan. And so he came from Hokkaido in Japan. And they went in as an army of occupation. They were going in for the invasion of Japan, but they didn't have to because they dropped the bomb on Hiroshima. And then so they still went into Japan, but they went to Hokkaido. They didn't go to Tokyo. So he was there for about 6 months, I guess, where they shipped him out. But that was what it was. You always sat next to the telephone or the radio waiting to see which. And if you knew the unit you usually knew the unit that your person was on, And if they got bombed or anything, you had to wait to see whether they got killed or not, and so on and so forth. So it wasn't.
Did you have stars in your window?
Pardon?
Did you have stars?
Oh yes, oh Lord, yes.
3 stars, 3 blue stars.
You had 3 blue stars?
I did in her window.
Yeah.
One for Ray, too?
Yeah, Ray was, and Ray came back to our house after that. And so.
It must have been amazing to see so many stars in everybody's window, huh?
It was a sad time for everybody.
And almost every house had a star in the window. And then there'd be the gold star.
Oh, that must have been awful.
And Peg was just telling me that Aunt Kate's brother, the mother, was the first gold star mother in
She was in
Auburn.
Cuba County.
Really?
Cuba County. I didn't know that, did you?
I'm sure she was, yeah, because I know they made a big deal of it when it happened because, she was the first gold star mother.
Oh, my God.
But
See, I had thought from Mother's story that he had been buried at sea, but Kate was telling us that the whole ship sunk.
Yes, it did. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, then he certainly would have been
He
buried at
definitely
sea.
was. But I thought it was like a fancy ceremony, not just a whole
Kaboom.
caboodle going. Oh,
It was a terrible thing because I mean he was, you know, an only son, I think, or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. Oh, boy.
So, but that was the way it went, and that's
But then on VJ Day, when the war ended, everyone came out on the street. We were in Woodburn, and all the neighbors came out, and they're yelling and screaming and laughing and talking. And
The prison whistles were blowing. Woo,
well, you know, the
Yeah,
last day I
yeah.
was in the balloons when Tony was alive, a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks ago, you know, before he died. We were talking about it. I said, Tony, you know where I was with BJ today? He said, yeah, I know where you were. There were about 10 of us. There was Marion and there was Hazel and there was myself, and they were all down at the balloons having dinner.
Oh,
And the president said at 7 o'clock he was going to make an announcement. So everybody said, well, what's he going to say tonight? And so 7 o'clock, everybody rushed into the bar room, you know, to hear the president. And so he came out and he said, the war in the Pacific is over.
wow.
And everybody went nuts.
And this is President Truman now.
Yeah. And so the place, I said to Tony, I remember it well, Peg. He said that night we all went crazy.
Oh, everybody was so joyous.
Because everybody, there were a lot of women, the whole place was women because you know, there were no men around.
Fun. That's amazing.
But
And every community built memorials for the fellows that went. Remember in Woodburn we had one, and the names would be on it, and that was a customary thing to do. I don't know if they did that in Auburn. Did they, Peg?
I don't see, they did that with World War One. Don't you remember? You see it every little while, that great big up near the Knights, the post office was, you know, there was a
Yeah.
great big monument over the whole road, but I don't think they, in World War II there's one up at the Knights of Columbus, there was one. And, but, because I think it was it Mary Ellen and Timmy Allen, one of them. They went down to check the memorial in Washington. I'm sure their father's name was on it.
Oh.
And it was. And they was always going to take him down to see it, but he never got there. But it's Mary Ellen, or Timmy, I think, one of them took a picture of it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
So,
I've never seen it. I'd love to
I
see
haven't
it.
seen it either. But
So those were some of the traumatic things you remember in history, huh?
yeah, that's what I mean. They're one of those things
Of
that.
course, Peg's got a couple other little things we haven't touched on, like the night your house burned down and all of that stuff. That was pretty traumatic.
That was a dramatic. Let me see. There was a dramatic time in my life, wasn't there? Can you imagine anybody forgetting that one? God's like, no. You're right, Jeannie. That's what I said when you said about having the baby when your husband's overseas. I was thinking of my house burning down. I have kids.
But you pulled through nicely, so.
Pardon?
But you pulled through nicely, right?
Yeah, we broke through.
You went forward.
It was a cold night in March. I don't think I ever took the keys out of the car until that night, and I took them out that night for some reason or other. Then I couldn't get the car started I was afraid the car would blow up in the driveway, and so I was trying to get the car out of the driveway and get the kids in the car to keep warm, and I couldn't find the keys, so we pushed it out.
Wow.
But
That must have been so frightening. Did you get all the kids right away? Did you find all the kids? They were all outside?
well, see, Pauline and Robbie and Michael had just gone back to school. They'd been home for the holidays, you know, for the Easter holidays or the spring holiday. And so the other three were Pauline and Mary Ellen and Timmy were the only ones in the house other than ourselves. And I come home from a civil service meeting. I went to a CSEA meeting that night. And about 12 o'clock, and I sat at the kitchen table writing out a check for something, I don't know what it was, and I felt the wall felt awful hot, you know, and I thought, oh my God, the furnace is acting up again, but I don't think it was. But anyways, So I went up to and went to bed. And I just got in bed, and I heard this noise out in the hall, you know, and it was Paulie and his father. It sounded like they were arguing, and I thought, "Oh God, his father's giving him heck for coming in at this hour." It's about 3 o'clock, and so I get up, and when I opened the door, the smoke came in. So I knew we were in trouble. So Paulie come around and said, "Get out of the house, man! The house is on fire." And I didn't get too excited because I'd been downstairs and I didn't think it was really that bad. So anyways, I had come in about 12:30, 1 o'clock. He came in at 3 o'clock. It was a television in the family room that had caught fire or something, and he turned it on and lay down to go to sleep. I guess that was it. And the thing blew up or something. They don't ever know what happened. And everybody, I know I had to get the 2 little kids out, you know, so I sent Timmy downstairs, and I sent me, and nobody could reach the phone because the phone was behind where the fire was, you know. And so we got the 2 kids out. Then Paulie come up and he said, "You got to get out of here, ma'am. It's burning underneath you." So out of the bedroom I was in, there was a flat roof out like this, you know. So I thought, if we get out on the flat roof, but it was burning, and that's where it was burning underneath it, you know. So it was hot. So I said, "Well, if you get out and drop the length of your body," I said, "you won't fall so far, you know, off this flat roof." So he did go out that way, and I went down the stairs and ran out the front door because the kids were out, the little kids. And but the thing was getting someplace where it was warm, it was cold, you know.
Oh yeah, that was an awful night.
It was a wild night, you know.
You were just in your nightgown.
Yes, I know.
Oh.
It was cold.
Then you just went to the neighbors?
So then Ruth Lattimore, they heard the fire department and come up the street. So Tom come over and he said, "Come on over to the house." So we all went over there, and I called for Francie up and called your father up and so on and so forth. And just, "Could you come and rescue us? We're stranded."
Oh, that was awful.
And then the next morning you went and saw that house?
Huh?
Then the next morning you went back and saw what was left of that
so
house?
yes, all was left inside was pretty well gone.
That must have been awful.
And so they had to tear it down, of course. But the funny part of it was, we live on Grove Avenue, and they went to Grover Street. We're waiting for this fire department.
Oh,
And
no.
they went the wrong street.
Oh my God.
So
Hmm.
it was a rough night. We lived through it. Nobody got killed anyways.
And that's the best news of all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing.
So true. Great.
And so I went in the cedar chest
Oh my
and
gosh.
dug this dress out. And this is the dress I wore in 1936. So it's 70 years old.
Oh my God.
And the interesting thing is Peg bought it for me in Auburn.
It was white then.
It was white.
Oh.
Isn't that something? And this was the veil that I wore on my head. And I was totally
Wow.
gorgeous, right?
You must have right the floor, Jeannie, because you weren't that tall.
Yeah, it's really
Oh,
long.
how beautiful.
And then later, my mother dyed it yellow so I could wear it to church on Sunday.
Oh, there you-
I think for Easter, because we've got pictures
Right.
of me in this Easter.
Oh,
Isn't that funny?
adorable. That
And I
is-
always saved it because I thought someday I'll have a little girl and I'll put the dress on her.
and
That didn't
Didn't
happen.
happen.
So this poor dress has been hanging around. And these were little white gloves. I'm sure Peg bought me
Oh,
these.
how cute.
Two that I
Look
wore
how
as well.
tiny.
Kids used to wear gloves in those days, you know. Those.
Oh my gosh, that is so tiny.
Isn't that fun? And you know, when we were flooded in 72 in
Right.
Corning, this was in a box high in a cupboard upstairs.
Oh boy.
It came through the flood. Not much else came through, but
See, and Mary Compton was your first communion dress who came through.
Wow.
And Peg, how was it that you came to buy that? What was your relationship with Jeannie when she was in this age?
What was what?
How was it you came to buy this for Jeannie at the time?
Yeah, Rick, I had my first job, and every time I went by the store, I bought her something. I had was shoes, or was that, or was.
I bought my first
They,
pair
they
of
always
shoes.
had a section of Stevens's window that was just to donate for children, you know.
Yeah.
And so I'd go buy, you know, that little blue and white coat that you got on in there. I bought that too.
Yeah. Peg must have spent all her money on me. Because my first pair of shoes, I've heard that 1,000 times that you bought them.
Well, I used to love to buy things for her.
And, you know,
so.
Peg was like 16, 17 years old then, right?
Yes,
I
yes.
mean, you were
Oh,
a
wow,
teenager.
Well, I had a summer job because I had money. I know that.
What did,
And what was it like for you to have such a young aunt?
oh, it was wonderful. You know, living on Parker Street was a dream come true because I was constantly surrounded with people that loved me. My grandparents, you know, Peg, Francie, my own parents, and then Dee Dee coming in and out. And then all the cousins around that came in, and everybody was...
But it wasn't only that, the Forsyths adored you. I mean,
Oh.
they were like your second family, and all the neighbors, you know, in those days.
The Forsyths were neighbors across the street, and they were so good to me. I used to go over and Blanche would rock me in the rocking chair.
And he'd carry up and down the street in the cart. Remember?
Yes, yes, yeah. It was fantastic, you know.
It isn't like it is now, Rick. People get in their houses, and of course everybody works now. In those days, you know,
Yeah.
the parents didn't work.
Plus, people have moved now, and they're far away. you
Yeah,
know,
right,
so-
right.
But boy, we were all together, weren't we? Living right in the same house
Right.
and neighborhood. It was wonderful. It was great.
That's
So
neat.
you can imagine what a shock it was to our family to move to Woodburn, where there's nobody, you know, from leaving this wonderful group in Auburn. That's why our dad always wanted to come back.
Oh, he always.
Back to God's country.
Yeah, we used to always get him about coming back.
Right, right.
That's
Yeah.
neat. That's a great story.
It's a nice story,
Hmm.
isn't it? was
But I
very
think they knew
fortunate.
everybody here, Rick. It makes a difference, and especially our ball players are like that because everybody gets acquainted with even people that don't know. You know, you your first name, you know,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
Then I was lucky enough that the O'Connors were in the picture
sure
too.
they live down the street.
And as Peg has said, Rita was very good to me. You know,
Mhm.
she and Peg were the same age about, and you know, she was awfully good to me too. So it was fun. And Graham O'Connor and all them. It'd be fun to go and visit them. But the Corcorans were the mainstay. That was, you know,
Wow.
that was solid.
We stayed.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
That's neat.
fun.
So that was fun.
Yeah.
They really didn't. You know, they had
Right,
a ton
right.
of babysitters and all that. They didn't have to worry about
Oh, right, right.
even where their next meal was coming from because Aha and Graham were right there providing everything. You were buying my clothes, and, you know,
Yeah.
it worked. Whatever the plan was, it worked.
Peg, how was it? My growing up had my father and you very close.
Uh-huh.
How did that all happen? Was it just as you were siblings, or did you grow up and share similar
You
experiences?
know, it's funny. Rick, Dick and I were always close, and I don't know whether it was from the time we were little or what it was, but he would defend me against some of the rest of the family. But now Francie wasn't that close to me, and Francie was a very loving person, but he was so quiet and so within himself, you know, that it was hard to reach him.
Mm-hmm.
Where, you know, and I think that Dick and I always were close.
Well, he loved you. We know that.
Oh, he'd come over and we'd sit there and eat in the morning and discuss all the politics, you know, what happened to who, and who was doing what, and so on and so forth.
I can remember as a kid growing up, he used to say, "Let's go for a ride," and what that meant was, "We're going to Peg's." You know, you went nowhere else, but you're always going for a ride. Let's go for a ride. Yeah.
And there'd always be something good to eat over there.
Yeah.
Wasn't there?
Yeah.
Cookies or something.
Yeah. No, it was always special.
Yeah, you see, Rick, we were much closer to your family, you kids, you know. I mean, we were the Francis kids because they were very quiet and distant, you know what I mean? And as they grew older, they got better, they really did. But when they were little, you know, it was like she'd bring Tammy down and leave him. I'd feel so sorry for poor little Tammy. He wouldn't say 10 words while he was there. But that was, you know, we used to go to your house more than we did to some of the other places.
Yeah. The other memory I have is going to the gas station.
Oh.
When either Dad was working there, but the gas station was always a destination somehow. Remember, did Paul run or own the gas
We
station?
owned the gas station at that time.
How did that? That was in the what? The 50s?
Well, yeah, no, that was after the war. When we come back, dear Josephine wanted her brothers to go into business, you know. Of course, I wasn't for it, but anyways, and so she was the matriarch of the Murphy family, you know, more or less, because she had money. That's why, probably. And so when they were both coming back, he and Murphy she wanted them to go into some kind of business. Well, they looked in the Esso station, which they did open, and DeFuria put up the money, you know what I mean, to build the place. And so we were in that in '57. That was in '45, I think, after the war, and so that's where the gas station came in. And when Rob was about 3, one Saturday morning, I couldn't find him, and so. Of course, we went all over the neighborhood looking for him. We just moved in Grove Avenue, and we went all over looking for them. And finally, I called Murph down the station. I said, Murph, I said, Paul won't be in right away because I said, we've lost Robbie, we can't find him. And so Murph said, well, I think we got a stranger down here. That little monkey was only 3 years old, and he rode his bicycle down to the kids every Saturday went to the Y, the 2 older ones, you know. And Polly and Michael. And he followed them, they didn't know he was behind them, and he followed them to the Y, and then they went in the Y, and he didn't know where to go. So he got down at General Station, and he said, I want to go to my dad's station with a cop. Didn't know whether he was with somebody or whether he wasn't. So he took him down to the station. Here he was, then he come home in the police car, you know, thinking it was Mr. America. But I said, how he ever made it, I don't know, across General Street all on the bike, on the tricycle. And so, anyways, that's where the station came in. And then we had that, you know, for several years.
Rick, didn't we want Peg to tell us about the incident where Paulie's
arm in Dr.
severed?
DeFurio.
When Paulie put his arm through the window?
Oh,
Tell us
Paulie was
about
7
that.
years old, and it was summertime in July. And I told him I used to go, Paul worked nights because he had to keep the station open, you know. And so I used to take him out to get ice cream, you know, after he got them in their pajamas or something like that. So I was doing the dinner dishes. And I said, I'll stay right on the porch, and when I get through, we'll go, you know, in the car. So anyways, I all of a sudden heard this crash bang. Well, this Bobby Stott, who was about 2 years older than Paul, he was on the front porch with him, they were playing, and he swung him around like this, and he went through the window and came down on it like this, you know. Well, I hollered to the people across the road are sitting on the porch, the Ingalls, and so one of the girls come over and I said, we gotta, oh no, at first I went to the phone, I called the doctor and I said, we gotta see you right away. Unfortunately, he wasn't in the office, he was at home. So he said, I'll meet you at the office in a half an hour or something. But he didn't get too excited, you know, so I said, all right. So because I just shook his hand like this, and I saw it was all blood, you know, so I just wrapped up in a towel. And so when the girls across the road came over and they said, well, I'll ride to the doctor's office with you, so they did. And of course, I was afraid to look at it, you know, because I didn't know how far it was going. So when he got down there, of course, the superior said to him, raise your arm, and he couldn't raise. There was nothing to raise.
Oh, God, it was severed.
All the muscles and the cartilage and everything was cut right through. Just skin, Rick, here. I thought, oh, dear God. So he called the Mercy, and he said, we'll operate. And he's just eaten, so we'll have to wait an hour. So he said, we'll operate. And so they went up, and that was the night I met Dr. Romano, God love him. He came into Auburn. He's a pediatrician, you know, and he came into Auburn at that time. And he was at the hospital that night, so the superior introduced me to him. So anyways, he operated. And it took him several hours to do this, to put it back together again. But then, of course, he was getting ready to go into second grade, and I didn't know what was going to happen. So I had him made an appointment with Dick Warner. He was a physiotherapist, and so he said to me, "Well, now we got a problem here. If they're connected to the right thing, so your fingers moving like this, you're in good shape. But they all look alike when they snap up there like this, He said you have to pull them down. So he said we'll start therapy. So by God, DeFerrio did a good job. He got them all in the right place, so all the fingers worked, But of course, he was a year before he could use the arm. I mean, he had to take there. It was in a cast, But it was a blessing because the thing was right off, practically. And so he went to Warner for about a year, and he eventually came back. But he did a good job on it because I guess it's kind of a ticklish job of all these little things that are like strings, And you got to get the right one to work on this finger and that finger and this thing to put them all down again,
Yeah.
So
Amazing.
That was a miracle.
it was
Yeah.
a miracle. It really was. Because I didn't think he'd ever use his hands again, but he did.
Yeah. Dr. DeFerrio has played a significant part.
He was a great surgeon. He really was.
In your whole life, though, he sort of is, all the chapters of your life, DeFerrio, for all of us, shows up at different times.
Yes, and sometimes, I think he was good in what he did, And
He took care of our grandfather, Richard I, right? When he had cancer and was dying.
my father, yes,
Yes.
yeah.
Dr. DeFerrio I didn't know that. He treated him when he was dying?
Oh, yes, yeah. He took care of my father. And,
You should tell the story about your father refusing to retire and consequently losing his pension. Do you remember that, Pat?
yeah, but he didn't refuse to retire, but we wouldn't tell him. We were wrong.
Yeah,
We were
that's
wrong. He
right.
wasn't wrong. We wouldn't tell him he had cancer, you see, and so therefore he never. So when they put him in the hospital to immobilize the spine, because the cancer was going into the spine, Mr. Brownhill, who was a clerk at the city of Auburn, over the police department, came up to the hospital and he said, maybe I can talk to him and we can get him to sign this. He said, so he did. He signed it that afternoon for Brownhill. And Mr. Brownhill, God love him, he got in his car and drove to Albany and registered. They had to be registered for 30 days. He registered it, but it only registered 30 days and he died. But it was our own fault, because
no one wanted to tell him that he had cancer.
We wouldn't tell him he had cancer.
So he thought he was going to get better.
What was the judgment around that? Was that he could not have coped with it, or why?
He couldn't ever.
Why was that a good decision for you not to tell him? Was it?
I think it was...
Well, because my father had given up right then. You know what I mean? That's the end. And he expected he was going to get better, and he worked towards getting better, Otherwise, he'd have just said, let's forget the whole thing, And so...
Don't you think maybe there was a little denial, too, on our part?
It could be.
Because cancer, we didn't know much about cancer in 1949.
He's the first man I ever heard of that had lung cancer. I never heard of a person having lung cancer. And he had this problem. They were treating him for pleurisy in his chest, for several months before they discovered.
And then when they did diagnose it as cancer, he went fast.
Yeah, oh yes, he did. He wasn't too long because it had gone that far by that time. I took him to Syracuse to a doctor over there, and Dr. Boudreaux, I think his name was, and he was one that, he said, well, there's something wrong here, he says, and so coming back in the car, I always remember saying that, he said, what do you think? I said, well, don't worry about it. I said, we'll get the report, and if it's tuberculosis, you can go to a hospital and they'll take care of you, And so we didn't really know when we come back. So a couple of days later, DeFerrio called me and he said, the prognosis isn't good. And I said, why? What's the name? He said, it's cancer. I said, oh God, so.
Yeah. But anyways, AHA didn't get a pension because the papers weren't in 30 days.
30 days, and that's still on the books. I had to have 30 days in before I retired.
Yeah.
Everybody does. But it seems to me that the attorney told us at that time that he said, don't try to fight it because he says nobody's beat it yet. And he said, the only thing is you're spending your money, on attorneys and it's not going to work. So we never did.
Wow.
But 32 years and you don't get a pension. And it's stupid, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
We were living in Liberty at the time, and when he was diagnosed, it must have been summer, because he died in October.
he died in October,
And I
yeah.
remember so well the day you called Dad in Liberty to tell him
Yeah.
that Grandma had cancer. And I can remember we all said, cancer, what is that? What does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, it didn't, and you
Nobody
can't-
knew, really.
Mhm.
it wasn't like it is today where everybody knows, you know.
And then it was so sad, he went so fast.
Yeah, he only lived about, in June, I think they diagnosed him, he was dead in October.
Mm.
So, but then he had a period, Rick, where he was better, and that was the sad part when it was August. And Hattie and then he came up one night, and Dad said he used to come to see him all the time. And Hattie was head of the water department in the city of Auburn, and they were very good friends. And Hattie said, "Would you like to go for a ride, Dick?" And Dad said, "Well, I don't know. I should have." He said, "Go ahead." So he was pretty good that day, So Hattie took him down to visit some friend down on Fitch Avenue. I don't know who it was, but anyway, to make a long story short. And he went for about a week, and he was fine. And I thought, "Oh my God, it's working," the therapy.
Mhm.
But it wasn't.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a sudden when he suddenly did go. I mean, he went fast.
What kind of treatment would they have had?
What,
back
honey?
then? What kind of treatment would they have had for him back then?
I don't know, but they took him in for a treatment. It was sort of like a chest treatment, like tuberculosis treatment, than it was for
So
cancer.
there was
'cause
like
there
no
wasn't nothing you could
radiation
do
or
for
gosh,
no, none of that?
No
cancer.
chemo.
Oh wow.
This is in
But,
the
but I know the
40s.
Furious said, "You should tell him what's going on." I said, "No, we don't tell him."
But DeFurio, going back to him, he really wanted the family to tell
Oh yes, yeah,
Uh,
oh yeah.
Grandma, but they didn't.
Of course, he knew that he wasn't going to get better. That's the whole thing. I mean,
Yeah, and we thought we were wishing for a miracle,
Yeah,
like we
right,
always
right.
do, and
Mhm.
didn't happen.
but
But that was the only time I ever saw my father cry was at Grandma's funeral, when we were leaving the house, to go
Yeah.
to the church,
Yeah.
when you're saying goodbye to the corpse, whatever. And he burst out crying. I remember thinking, wow, never saw him cry before. He just sobbed.
But then when he died, Rick, it was, well, you remember, they had a military funeral for him because the policemen all, they marched from our house to St. Mary's Church, in front of the coffin, and so on and so forth. So it was kind of a sad situation, the whole thing. Right.
Oh, another thing just occurred to me. Dad used to tell, or told me at once anyways, that when he was little, and Francie was little, that every night Grandma would come up to their room and say goodnight to them. They'd be put to bed, whoever Raha would put them to bed or
Yeah.
whatever when they were little, and he would come in. I don't know if he would hug them and kiss them or what, but he said, he remembered that. He never missed a night coming up to their room and saying goodnight.
Mm. That's a good father, huh?
Yeah.
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 And when he died, everybody showed up, even all the black people that were his friends.
That's great. Man.
What was the impact on the family? He was the patriarch for a long time. He dies, and all of a sudden, a very important part of the equation is gone. What happened then? How did Aha get through this?
Well, my mother was a pretty capable person. She could do most anything, Only, as I say, finances were different because she didn't work, you know what I mean, and so on. But I think the boys and everybody rallied to the cause.
Mm-hmm.
Then Dee Dee decided to leave the cabin, so they had to really strict things up.
She had to deal with that.
So Didi left the convent after her father died.
No, before.
Before, because she
She
was here
was-
when he died.
She was at
She
the
was there.
funeral.
In civilian clothes.
Yes. That was the first time I had seen her in civilian clothes.
Oh, was it the first time?
Oh, yes.
Oh, I
she
didn't
was
know.
sitting in the kitchen with Marie, and I went out in the kitchen, and there she was with hair and clothes. And she stayed in the kitchen because she didn't want anybody to see her. Remember
Oh,
that?
yeah. Oh, I
And
guess
people were
so.
coming in the living room, and Dee Dee stayed in the kitchen. And
Yeah.
everybody that
wanted
knew
to
about it,
see.
they were dying to get a look at you. And she must have gone to the church. For
Oh,
the
she did.
funeral.
Yeah, she went to the church.
So I think all eyes were on her rather than on poor grandma, probably.
It was a trying moment, Rick. Not only did he die, but she came out of the convent. So
It was a double header. Huh?
this is a double header of 49.
Yeah. Wow.
So then Aha lived on Hamilton Avenue how much longer? She was there in 52, 53 I was with her. So when did she move in? Well, she went with Dee Dee and Father Gaynor from Hamilton Avenue, didn't she?
No, she never lived with them.
Oh, sure she did, in Ontario and Clifton Springs.
Oh, yeah, 57 she went with Father Gaynor.
Okay, did she move in with you? From
No,
Hamilton Avenue, where did she go?
No, at Hamilton Avenue, she stayed in Hamilton Avenue because we used to go down every day and
Oh,
she'd bake
yeah.
her pies and bring them up every day.
Yes. So how many years was she able?
Well, the 9, 7 to 8 years. Just
Yeah.
like you.
Yeah, just like me. We put up with it for 8 years and then we figured it out. Time to go.
Enough is that. Yeah, because she went in 57, he was appointed to Cato and he didn't have a housekeeper.
Yes, right.
And then, so he asked her if she would consider going with him, so
Yeah.
she did.
Yeah.
And so that's where she was at for several years. She went to Clifton Springs with him, and she went to,
Yes, Ontario.
Ontario with him, and
Yeah.
then he moved it here.
Moravia. She was in Moravia with
She was in
him.
Moravia too.
Yeah.
You remember that better than I do. She knows the years. or
She was a
something.
very strong person.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, she was.
She was very strong. Yeah.
So,
But it was hard
but
financially.
she was hard though, Rick, because she wouldn't confide in anybody.
Oh, she was proud.
Very, and I know she was. When I ever saw that when after she died, and I didn't know this, but after she died, and then I settled up the estate or whatever there was left. And I mean, she only had about $2,000 left in the banks because there was no money coming in. And of course, she'd never worked, so she wasn't under Social Security, And so.
But we arranged for her to get Social Security. Do you remember that?
Oh, we did that eventually, yes.
Because-
Here she is, a woman, she's probably 75 years old, being the first policewoman for the St. Mary's School down there in Clark.
Is that right?
That's right.
In the middle of winter,
Stop those
in
cars.
the middle of winter when the snow was blowing, I used to go nuts, and it was blowing like crazy. And she'd go down there, because I hate winter anyways. And she'd be standing there waiting for the kids to cross the crossing guard, And she was one of the first crossing guards in the city of Auburn.
See, I never knew that.
And
That's a
well,
great story.
Oh, gosh, yes.
And see what she was trying to do was build up enough time to get Social Security. See, Rick, so that's what she did.
Wow.
So she did it too.
She did.
Yeah. She took care of some of the Marshall kids up on Hoops Avenue, and when they went to Florida, and she did things like this and like that. But she got enough quarters, that she was able to.
It seems to me we were involved when Terry and Joy were little. She came over to Geneva and stayed with us.
Probably.
And I went back teaching kindergarten, and she was taking care of those two little kids, and we did it somehow so she'd get another quarter.
Yeah, to get another quarter or something.
Yeah, for Social Security. Yeah.
And because she wasn't eligible for Social Security.
And
that
then,
was only like $200, I guess.
Yeah, it was probably a
month.
pittance then.
But, yeah, she...
But you would never know that she was hurting.
No, she never did. I didn't know. I could never get her to say anything about money. We couldn't talk about money. But when she died, I almost flipped when I saw that. I said, oh my God.
When I was in my second year of teaching at Union Springs, I asked Aha if I could come and live with her in Auburn and go back and forth, because I didn't like Union Springs, and the girls I was with were getting married and all that. So I moved back to
Yeah, I
Hamilton
remember when you
Avenue,
came back.
and I would get a paycheck, and I would give her the money, and she'd fight with me. I don't want your money. And I said, no, you have to take it, because it would be the same as if I was renting an apartment or something. And she was so proud. She never wanted to do that. And I'd put it in the cupboard and leave it like Grandma used to do.
Yeah,
most of the time we went up and ate with you.
Yeah, the pie every day.
She'd go buy groceries, take them up to Peg's, then we'd all go up to Peg's and eat, and that was great because the kids were little.
Kids were
and
little,
We
and
loved
they were
them,
pain.
and oh gosh.
I mean, when she was dead and she was buried in my house, and all her neighbors would say, "Oh, we'll miss you going up every morning with your pie, with the pie."
Yes.
Don't embarrass, because I couldn't bake a pie if I wanted.
Yeah. And cookies. She'd go to the store and buy
Yeah.
cookies.
Always.
All the fun food, and take it up to Peg's.
We wondered after it was all over how she afforded these cookies and
Yes.
things she used to buy.
Yeah. Oh Lord.
Peg, you mentioned Father Gaynor.
Yeah.
How does he come into our family's life?
Well, the funny part of Father Gaynor is, because it was through Dee Dee. He went out with Dee Dee before she went in the convent. Because he went in the priesthood, and she ended up in the
Now,
convent.
I don't think I knew that.
So they were classmates? They're
They
contemporaries.
really weren't classmates, but my father and his mother and father, his father was a friend of my father's.
Okay.
For years this was, gone by. And then now they may have ended up been up in school together, Rick. They might have been, I don't know, because she was going with Tom Gilbert when she died, when he died, when, she went in the convent. And so, and then somewhere along the way, I know we befriended them when they came out of the convent, and so on and so forth.
Well, didn't his mother die, and then Aha was kind to him, or there was something there, wasn't it? Or did his?
No, his mother didn't die because she only died after, just before he did.
Oh, I thought there was some reason why he
There may have been.
came to
There
the
may,
Corcorans.
there may have been. Because I know there was a way back in my father's time, you know what I mean, before
Yeah.
any of us came into being.
He was always a part of.
Well, then after my mother went to work
Everything.
with him, over in Cato, and he went to these other, he always became part of the family. I mean,
Yeah.
every Christmas, every New Year, everything.
Yeah, he was
Everything.
part of the family.
He was part of the family, so we used to go over to Cato, to have dinner or something like this, or some of these things, and from then on, anytime we had a holiday, why he was part of the holiday.
Yeah.
So when Aha went with him, where was Dee Dee in the picture? Did she go too? Eventually she did.
Yeah, but she was in Rochester in an apartment at that time, she and Marie.
Then she went to help Aha.
Well, then when my mother couldn't go any longer, when she became
Yeah.
sick there, she got out, and then Dee Dee and Marie went down. Marie went as the housekeeper, and Dee Dee went as the secretary.
Right.
So then they were all together.
So then the three of them were living with Father Gaynor.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And that worked out well for years.
because then he built a new church over there and all that business, So.
Yeah. And he married and he buried all the
All of us,
Corcorans,
yeah.
all of us, and
I know, I
baptized
saw that one.
Yeah.
My God, he did.
everybody. Yeah. And every time he would be giving a sermon, he would thank Aha.
Yes.
Remember?
Yeah,
He
yeah.
always had that, what a good person she was.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Blah, blah, blah.
He did do. Well, she defended him as poor father, He's got a maid.
Yeah.
He had the Pope and Aha.
Yeah, right.
He was covered.
He was covered. I don't know.
He only made one mistake in his life, and that was making out his will, or not making
Not
out a
making
will.
out as well. I said, I said to Gigi one day, I said, we really should, I never should forgive Dee Dee, because if he had died first, we'd have done well.
He'd be rich.
She had to go first.
Oh gosh.
Wasn't good planning at all.
Wow.